It was one of those lazy, laid-back Saturdays where everything felt like it was crawling along at half speed. I was just chilling at home, scrolling through my phone, when I spotted a missed call from Noah. Turns out, he'd forgotten his headphones at my place after we kicked it the night before and was desperate to get them back. It wasn't a huge deal to me, so I snatched the headphones off the coffee table and fired off a text saying I'd drop by his place. Noah's house was just a short drive across town. Nothing tricky about it. I knew his mom, Sophia, was usually around, but she tended to keep to herself, maybe holed up in her room. I hadn't thought much about her before, except to notice she was pretty good-looking for her age. She was probably pushing late 30s, but honestly, she could pass for younger. Still, to me, she was just Noah's mom, plain and simple. Nothing else to it. When I got to their place and knocked, I expected Noah to open the door, but it was Sophia instead. She swung it open, wrapped in a red robe, her hair still wet from a shower. She looked a bit caught off guard, but didn't seem fazed at all. I wasn't sure where to rest my eyes and quickly glanced away, feeling the awkwardness settle in like a heavy fog. "Hey, Ethan," she said, flashing a warm smile. "Noah's out for a bit. What's up?" I fumbled my words for a second before holding up the headphones like some kind of truce flag. "Just bringing these back. Didn't mean to catch you, in the middle of something." She let out a gentle laugh, tucking a damp strand of hair behind her ear. "Oh, I'm not in the middle of anything," she said easily. "Just hopped out of the shower. Wanna come in for a minute?" I paused, not totally sure if I should, but ended up stepping inside anyway. I mean, she wasn't some random person. It just felt different this time. I'd always seen her as this put-together, mom-like figure, not someone I'd ever feel a pull toward. We settled in the living room, and she offered me something to drink. At first, we just chatted about light stuff, but as the conversation went on, she started opening up in ways I didn't see coming. She shared about her life, how everything around her seemed to be shifting, and how, even with people around, she sometimes felt completely on her own. For a moment, it didn't feel like I was sitting with my buddy's mom. It was just me and her, having a real, unguarded talk, and the way she looked at me made me feel like she actually cared about my thoughts. That's when something in me changed. I started seeing her in a new light, beyond just being Noah's mom. Then she gave me this soft, almost secretive smile. "You've really grown up, Ethan. It's wild to think about," she said. "I can still picture you and Noah tearing through the house as little kids." I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded slightly. There was this new vibe between us, something unsaid but definitely present. I could sense it, a little spark, a subtle tension, and I wasn't sure what it meant, but I wasn't ready to head out yet. She got up and headed to the kitchen, and I trailed behind. As she passed, I caught a faint hint of her perfume, fresh and clean from her shower. For a split second, she wasn't Noah's mom anymore. She was just a woman, someone with her own life and desires. "Thanks for coming by," she said, turning to face me. "I really needed someone to talk with today." I gave her a small grin, feeling a warm flutter in my chest. "Anytime," I replied, but as I left, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between us. Something quiet had taken hold, and I had no idea where it might go. The next time I saw Sophia, it was totally unplanned. I was grabbing some groceries for dinner when I spotted her in one of the aisles, holding a jar of marinara sauce and squinting at the label with this adorable little frown. For some reason, it hit me. How had I never noticed how effortlessly beautiful she was? It wasn't just her looks. It was how she carried herself, with this quiet confidence, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. I wasn't expecting to run into her, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to play it. We hadn't really talked since that weird morning with the robe and headphones. But something about that day had stuck with me, her smile, the way she looked at me. It lingered. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm and welcoming, instantly putting me at ease. I grinned back, trying to keep it chill. "Hey, Sophia. Didn't think I'd bump into you here. Just picking up stuff for dinner," she said, gesturing to her cart. It was a simple comment, but it snowballed into a full-on conversation. We talked about cooking, the weather, just easy stuff. But beneath it all, there was this undercurrent of something else. Small glances, subtle smiles. Attention that wasn't loud but was definitely there. Then, out of the blue, she asked, "You got plans tonight?" She said it so offhand like it was no big deal, but I could tell she was feeling things out. I didn't know how to answer right away. "Not really, just chilling at home," I said with a shrug. She gave me a gentle smile. "Noah's out with his buddies tonight. I was gonna whip up some dinner. You should swing by. It'd be nice to have someone around." Her invitation threw me for a loop. My first instinct was to politely duck out. After all, what did we really have to talk about without Noah there? But the way she said it made it tough to say no. Before I could overthink it, I found myself saying, "Yeah, sure." And that was that. I had no idea what I just agreed to. Later that evening, as I drove to her place, my stomach was in knots. There was this nervous energy I couldn't pin down, like I was heading into something I wasn't ready for. When I got there, her house felt as warm and familiar as ever. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air, giving the place this cozy, almost too perfect vibe. Sophia was in the kitchen, humming quietly as she stirred something on the stove. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching her, taking it all in. That's when it really sank in. The woman standing there wasn't the same Sophia I'd known for years. She looked like her, no doubt, but there was this new layer to her, more open, more real, like I was seeing her for the first time. "Grab a seat," she called over her shoulder with a casual grin. "Dinner's almost ready." I slid into a chair at the kitchen table, trying to act like my nerves weren't buzzing. She moved around the kitchen with this effortless grace, like it was her domain and she owned every inch of it. Meanwhile, I was sitting there, grappling with this weird mix of feelings swirling inside me. It wasn't just her looks or how at ease she seemed, it was the way she made me feel like I was more than just her kid's buddy. We sat down to eat and the conversation just clicked. No weird silences, no forced small talk. We got into real stuff, life, how it never quite goes the way you plan. She opened up about her younger days, how she missed the rush of doing something spontaneous, that spark of excitement. She admitted things had gotten a bit predictable with Noah out so much. Her voice had this raw edge, like she'd been bottling up those feelings for years, acting like everything was fine when it wasn't. I just listened. I didn't have any profound wisdom to drop or clever advice to offer. I nodded, letting her pour it out. But as she talked, I started picking up on little things, the way her eyes sparkled when she got fired up about something, how her laugh felt so real, so alive. She wasn't just Noah's mom anymore. She was a person with her own dreams, her own struggles. "Thanks for hanging out," I said after we finished eating, standing up to help clear the plates. She flashed me a smile, and for a split second, I caught something deeper in her eyes, something that felt heavier. "I'm really glad you stopped by," she said softly. "It's been a while since I've had a real talk with someone." I didn't know how to respond, so I just gave a little nod, but we both knew something had shifted. It didn't need to be said out loud. When it was time to go, she pulled me into a quick hug, nothing fancy, just friendly. But her hand lingered on my back for a beat too long, and that moment stuck with me like glue. "Take care, Ethan," she said, her voice almost a whisper. As I walked to my car, my head was all over the place. The night had been so normal, so simple, but it had shaken something loose inside me. I couldn't put my finger on it. She hadn't done anything wild or out of bounds, but the way she looked at me, the way she really listened, it felt like there was something real between us, a connection I hadn't expected. I'd been to Noah's place a million times, but this was different. In the days after, I couldn't stop thinking about it, no matter how hard I tried to shove it aside. A few days later, Noah hit me up to grab a drink, and I thought, cool, maybe a night out will clear my head. But the second I stepped into the bar, there she was, Sophia, sitting at the counter with a couple of friends. She spotted me, gave a little smile and a wave, and without thinking, I waved back. That smile of hers was easy, but there was this warmth to it, something new that made my stomach do a little flip. "Hey, Ethan," she said as I walked over, her voice smooth and welcoming. "Didn't think I'd see you here tonight?" I shrugged, trying to keep it low-key. "Yeah, just meeting up with Noah. Didn't know you'd be out." She let out a soft chuckle. "Figured I'd catch up with some old friends. It's been forever since I had a proper night out." Her eyes held mine a touch longer than necessary, and just like that, the quiet tension was back, simmering just below the surface. I should have walked away, said goodnight, and gone to find Noah. But I didn't. Instead, I plopped down next to her. We talked, we laughed, acted like it was no big deal. Eventually, Noah rolled up and joined us. The three of us sat there, swapping stories about school, old times, and the stupid stuff we used to get into. But even with all the chatter, my mind kept wandering. Every time Sophia glanced my way, I felt it, that shift, that something. Her laugh, her quick looks in my direction, they stirred something inside me, something I couldn't quite wrap my head around. It was like we were both holding on to a secret we weren't ready to voice. Then, at one point, Noah stepped away to grab another drink, leaving just me and Sophia at the table. I didn't mean to say anything deep, but the words just slipped out. "So, how are you really doing, Sophia?" She paused, her smile soft but fading slightly, and for a moment I saw something real in her eyes, something unguarded. "I'm all right," she said quietly. "Just feeling a bit lonely these days, I guess." Her honesty hit me like a curveball. It was like she'd peeled back a curtain, showing me a side of her I hadn't expected, not just Noah's mom, but someone with her own struggles. "Yeah," I said, nodding. "I get that. It can be rough sometimes." She gave Bacteria a small nod back, and we sat there in this quiet moment that didn't feel awkward at all. It felt calm, almost right. I wanted to say more, to offer some kind of comfort, to lighten whatever load she was carrying, but the words didn't come. So I just looked at her, wondering if she was really just lonely or if there was something deeper behind her words. Noah came back with the drinks, and just like that, the moment slipped away. But something in me had changed. That night, the way I saw Sophia shifted for good. She wasn't just my friend's mom anymore. There was this new light around her, something risky, something that pulled me in. When we all decided to call it a night, I walked out to the car with Noah, but my mind was still stuck on that brief moment with her. What did she mean by lonely? Was she just bored, or was there something more she wasn't saying? When I got home, I flopped onto the couch, replaying the night in my head. That dinner, her quiet confession, the way she looked at me, it hit me that this wasn't just some random evening. There was something else at play between us, something we hadn't put into words. Whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was getting swept up in something bigger than me. The scariest part? I wasn't even sure I wanted to fight it anymore. The next few days dragged, heavy with thoughts I couldn't shake. My mind kept circling back to that night at the bar, Sophia's quiet confession, the way her eyes held mine like she was looking for something deeper. There was this unspoken weight between us, lingering no matter how much I tried to brush it off. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just a fleeting moment. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Noah and I had always been close, like brothers. He was my go-to guy. But lately, even when we were chilling together, my thoughts would wander back to her, to Sophia. I hated that I couldn't stop it, hated how her smile, her confidence, kept creeping into my head. She wasn't the same person I'd known growing up. That Saturday, I figured I needed to snap out of it. I hit up Noah and suggested we head to the park to shoot some hoops like we used to back in the day. I thought maybe getting out and moving would quiet the noise in my head. When I pulled up to the court, Noah was already there, sinking shots. He looked up and flashed a grin. "Took you long enough, man?" "You're slacking," he said, lobbing the ball my way. "Yeah, got caught up with something," I said, forcing a grin back. For the next hour, we went at it hard, trading jabs, talking smack, trying to one-up each other. But my heart wasn't in it. My mind was somewhere else, somewhere warm and messy and confusing. After a bit, we took a breather, plopping down on the edge of the court. Out of nowhere, Noah hit me with a question. "You think my mom's all right?" he asked, wiping sweat off his face and glancing my way. The question caught me off guard. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "She's been acting kinda off lately," he said, staring at the ground. "Not her usual self. I don't know if she's stressed or what, but something's not right. Feels like she's dealing with something." His words hit me like a punch. I'd always seen Sophia as this unshakable, put-together woman, never rattled, always steady. But maybe I'd misread her. "I don't know," I said quietly. "Have you tried talking to her?" He shook his head. "Not really. Whenever I bring it up, she just shrugs it off. I don't want to push too hard, but I can tell she's not okay." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to spill everything, tell him about the pull I felt, the moments I'd noticed with her. But I couldn't. "Not now, maybe not ever. Maybe she just needs some time," I said, trying to sound chill. "Yeah," he mumbled. "Maybe." But I could hear the doubt in his voice. He wasn't convinced. We wrapped up the game and headed back to his place. The whole walk, my stomach was in knots, like I was marching towards something inevitable. When we stepped through the front door, there she was, Sophia, lounging on the couch, flipping through a magazine. She looked up and gave us a warm smile, like everything was perfectly normal. "Hey, boys," she said, her voice bright. But I saw it, the tiredness in her eyes, the tension in her posture. She was putting on a show, and I could see through it now. "Hey, Mom," Noah said, flopping down next to her. "You good?" he asked, shooting her a quick look. Sophia hesitated for a second before nodding. "Yeah, just one of those long weeks, you know." I could tell she was dodging, acting like it was no big deal. I didn't call her out, how could I? My pulse was racing, louder than I wanted to admit. I slipped into the kitchen, needing a moment to catch my breath, to escape the heaviness in the air. But then I heard footsteps behind me. Sophia was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed loosely. "Ethan," she said, her voice soft but steady. Can we talk for a sec? I turned a little thrown off. Yeah, sure. What's going on? She stepped into the kitchen and quietly shut the door behind her. The space between us felt smaller and my chest tightened as she got closer. I just wanted to thank you for the other night, she said, her eyes flicking away briefly. It meant more to me than you probably realize. Her words landed heavy and I swallowed hard. No problem, I said. You know I'm around if you ever need to talk. She gave a slow nod and for a moment we just stood there, the silence thick with all the things we weren't saying. Then, almost like she needed to steer the conversation somewhere safer, she said, Noah's such a good kid. He's had his rough patches, but his heart's in the right place. I nodded, not sure where she was headed with this. But when her eyes met mine again, they lingered a little too long. That spark I'd felt before, it was there, humming like a live wire. Yeah, I said softly. He's a solid guy. She smiled, but there was something else in it, something I couldn't pin down. It made me wonder if she was feeling the same pull I was. For a split second, I almost asked what this really was. But I held back, stuck in that charged silence with her, not sure which way to turn. Finally, she broke it with a quiet, thanks again, Ethan. Anytime, I said, but the word felt different now, heavier than before. A week went by after that kitchen talk. It wasn't some big, dramatic moment, but it stuck with me, replaying in my head. Every time I saw Sophia after that, the air felt different, electric, alive with something unspoken. I wasn't sure if she felt it too, or if I was just seeing what I wanted to see. But one thing was clear, the vibe between us had shifted and there was no going back from it. Noah and I kept hanging out like nothing had changed. He'd crack jokes, keep things loose, try to make it feel normal, but it didn't work on me. Whenever Sophia walked into the room, my eyes couldn't help but follow her. I started noticing the small stuff, how her head tilted slightly when she spoke, how her gaze would catch mine and hold just a beat longer than it needed to. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it hit me hard every time. Then Saturday rolled around. Noah was off with his crew, so I ended up at their place by myself. I hadn't planned on it, but I wasn't mad about it either. Honestly, I needed the quiet to wrestle with the mess in my head and the knot in my gut. I was sprawled on the couch, messing around on my phone, when I heard her voice from the hallway. Ethan? I glanced up, surprised to see her standing there, her expression hard to read. Hey, I said, trying to sound chill even though my pulse was already picking up. She stepped into the room, hesitated for a second, then said, Can we have a quick talk? Those words tightened my stomach. Yeah, sure thing, I said, tossing my phone to the side. She walked over and sat next to me on the couch. We weren't touching, but the space between us felt like nothing. The air got thick, the room seemed to shrink. I've been thinking about our recent conversations, she started, her voice soft and measured, and I feel like I owe you an apology. I looked at her, thrown off. This wasn't what I expected. I know I've been a bit off lately, she went on. I've been dealing with some stuff and I didn't want to dump that on anyone. I blinked, trying to figure out what she was getting at. It's all good, I said after a pause. You don't need to say sorry. She gave me a small smile, but her eyes told me she wasn't fully buying it. There was more she wasn't letting out. Thanks for that, she said. But I also think I might have crossed a line with you. My heart skipped. This was the moment I'd been half dreading, half hoping for. I didn't know where it was headed, but I couldn't stop myself from listening. What do you mean by that? I asked, my voice quieter, more careful now. Sophia took a deep breath, her eyes dropping to her hands where her fingers fiddled with the hem of her shirt. I think you feel it too, she said softly. There's something going on between us and I can't keep pretending it's not there. I froze. Her words slammed into me, making everything real in a way I wasn't ready for. I'd felt it, sure, but hearing her say it out loud changed everything. I'm not trying to make this weird, Ethan, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I just don't know how to handle it, but I can't act like nothing's happening anymore. I stared at her, my thoughts racing in 100 directions. Every part of me screamed that this was a bad idea, that I shouldn't even be sitting here. But I stayed. I don't want things to get awkward either, I said, trying to keep my cool, trying to hold it all together. But I'm not sure what you expect me to say. She looked up, her gaze steady and unflinching. For a long moment, we just sat there, the silence heavy with everything we couldn't put into words. Then she reached out, her hand grazing mine, soft, barely there, but it sent a shock through me. I couldn't breathe for a second, couldn't move. This isn't some silly crush, Ethan, she murmured, her eyes locked on mine. I don't know exactly what this is, but I can't ignore it anymore, and I don't want to. A rush of feelings hit me, guilt, curiosity, want, fear, all at once. I knew what was at stake, what this could break if it ever got out. But I also knew the connection between us was real, and part of me wasn't ready to let it go. You sure about this? I asked, my voice shaky. I mean, whatever this is. She nodded, her fingers wrapping around mine, steady and sure. I'm sure. And just like that, the line we'd been tiptoeing around was gone. We didn't say anything more, there was nothing left to say. But the air had changed, heavy with what we'd just admitted. From that moment, everything was different. It's been 6 months since that night. 6 months of guarding a secret we both swore to keep. 6 months of balancing normal life with the quiet space we carved out for ourselves. In some ways, it feels like we've lived a whole lifetime in those fleeting, hidden moments. We didn't talk much about us. What started that night when she opened the door in her red robe never faded. It just became part of who we were. Strangely, it felt right. But it was delicate, something we protected fiercely. From the start, we agreed on one thing: our happiness came first. That happiness was built on trust, a trust that let us share everything, even while keeping it from the world. We created our own little bubble, our own slice of something true. But the guilt never fully left me. Every time I hung out with Noah, it gnawed at me, not because I thought he deserved to know, but because carrying a secret like this always leaves a scar. Still, I never doubted the choice. We both made it, and no matter how tangled or tricky it got, it always felt worth it. Sophia and I saw each other when we could, never too often. We stayed careful, kept it quiet, always out of sight. The toughest part was acting normal when Noah was around, smiling like nothing was different, keeping our distance, pretending we were just friends. But those stolen moments, the quick looks, the subtle smiles, the brief touch when no one was looking, those were everything. They were what kept us going. Sometimes, when it was just us in her house, we'd talk about what might happen if our secret ever got out. We never had a solid plan, just loose ideas and what-ifs that trailed off. Mostly, though, we didn't linger on it. We stayed in the moment, in those quiet pockets where we didn't owe anyone explanations, where we could just exist together. It was a calm Saturday evening, about 6 months after this whole thing between us kicked off. I was back at Sophia's, parked on the couch in that same spot where it all started. The house felt peaceful, like always. Noah was out with his buddies, so it was just us again. This setup had become familiar, almost second nature. We'd figured out how to live in this careful, quiet connection. We didn't need to keep hashing out our feelings, it had settled into something solid, something real. It was never conventional, but it had become something I couldn't picture letting go of. Sophia was next to me, as beautiful as ever, but there was this softness to her now, a relaxed ease in the way she carried herself. Over time, we'd learned to handle the weight of what we shared. We'd grown into our secret, found a kind of comfort in it, made it feel like home. "You ever think about how we got here?" she asked, her voice low and warm, cutting through the quiet. I grinned, leaning back into the couch. "All the damn time," I said. "I still can't wrap my head around how we've pulled this off for so long." I glanced at her, that old disbelief melting into something closer to gratitude. "Feels like it's been no time at all," she said with a soft chuckle, resting her head against my shoulder. "Yeah, doesn't it?" I replied. "But also, it's like this is where we were always meant to end up, like it was inevitable or something." I nodded, my hand brushing hers lightly. "It's strange," I said, "but the good kind of strange. I never thought my life would take this turn. But now that I'm here, I wouldn't trade it for anything." She tilted her head, her eyes locking onto mine with that look that always seemed to stop time. "Same here," she said quietly. "I think we've done all right, all things considered. I'm glad it's just ours." Her voice was firm, certain. "This belongs to us, only us." And she was dead right. That was what mattered most. It wasn't about anyone else. It was about what we'd built, piece by careful piece, together. "I'm happy," I said softly, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "We're happy. That's what it's all about." After that, we didn't say much. We didn't need to. We just sat there, side by side, wrapped in a quiet that felt full without being heavy. The only sound was the faint ticking of the wall clock. 6 months had passed. 6 months of keeping this hidden, right under everyone's noses. And somehow we made it work. We guarded our secret, protected what we had. Through it all, we held onto the one thing that mattered, each other. As the night settled in and the sky outside turned dark, one thing hit me clear as day. This was how I wanted things to stay. It wasn't perfect. It was messy, weird, and tangled. But it was ours. And sometimes that was more than enough.